Joining me now is one of those Democratic senators, Oregon's Jeff Merkley. He was barred entry to a migrant detention facility in Brownsville, Texas, more than 3 weeks ago, and arguably, you could say, of the elected officials out there, was one of the first to sound the alarm at what we were seeing at the border. Senator Merkley, welcome to the show, sir. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Chuck. Good to be with you.
I want to get to both issues here in a minute, but let me go to this larger issue of immigration reform and what's doable and what isn't. If I'm not mistaken, the president of the United States offered Chuck Schumer a deal. Chuck Schumer took it, and the president rescinded the deal. And the deal essentially was DACA and the wall, full funding for the wall, work out some of the details, done deal. Is that your understanding? And was that some form of a deal you could have still support if it showed back up?
Yes, absolutely. We had the Tuesday Trump who brought the D's and R's together on that day and brought in the media and the House and the Senate and said he would like to have a love bill and get this done and take the heat. And 2 days later, after taking the heat, he collapsed and he renounced any desire to get a deal done. So we needed the president to actually have a spine in this case, and he failed us.
I mean, just to reiterate, you will vote for funding for the wall. Full funding for the wall. I mean, you were willing, you and some Democrats were willing to do that if he really was willing to support citizenship for DACA.
But what was in that bill was border security for a year-by-year basis, and border security done smart, not a wasted concrete wall in quite the vision that Trump has. But I was willing to support border security. And in 2013, the bill that we passed in the Senate, supermajority, both parties working together, had a ton of border security in it.
What do you think is let's wave your magic wand for me here. What would you like to see the border look like? What would you like to see this immigration policy look like at the border for now?
Well, what we have at the moment is a situation where the president has said two things yesterday. He said, first, those 2,300 kids that are out there who have been separated, I'm not going to help them out. They're left on their own. He had his director of the Administration of Children and Families come out and say, nobody's grandfathered here. We're not going to take care of those that are already separated. And then the president proposed a second plan, which was handcuffs for all. We're not just going to throw the parents in prison. We're going to throw the children in prison. Now, we did this before. It was called a Japanese internment camp. And it was a dark period in America to put families in prison. That is not the answer. What the answer is are programs that work, like a program like the Case Manager program, which had a 100% success rate in getting people to their hearings.
Obviously, one of the problems, and this led to one of the court rulings, and this is what the Obama administration came up to, which is this issue, though, is that there is a backlog, right? There is, especially right now, there's an inundation because of the political situation in various Central American countries, and frankly, we could have a whole segment on our lack of a foreign policy for Central America, but we could set that aside for a minute. I guess what I'm asking is, what do you do with these families if catch and release isn't a reliable system? What would you do with these families where you need more time to decide their asylum cases?
Well, the point is we did have a reliable system, in the Family Case Management Program that turned out people, according to the Inspector General, of 100% at their hearings. And they use combinations, they use electronic tracking, they use people who could speak the language of the people, they tracked where they were with cell phones, they basically stayed in close touch. And that worked, and it cost a tiny fraction of imprisonment. So it was better for the kids, better for the parents. It was treating people fleeing persecution with respect and dignity. So it was a better policy on every single front than what the president's proposing, which is to inflict more harm on children to continue this deterrence strategy. And hurting kids for deterrence is completely unacceptable. It's unacceptable to hurt them through family separation, and it's unacceptable to do it through incarceration. It's
pretty clear you guys in Congress have to do a standalone bill on this issue. Because we're going to see legal challenges to the president's order and all of that. I know you're not a fan of the Cruz bill. You signed on to the Feinstein bill. Obviously, there's a desire to merge something here. How would you improve the Cruz bill so that you could sign on to it?
Well, the Cruz bill says we're going to have a hearing in 14 days to determine asylum. Realize that shows that he has no understanding of people arriving in the United States of America who've been fleeing persecution. They do not have paperwork with them. They don't have a smartphone with them. They don't have the ability to just dial up back home and get the records they need to make their case, because they have to prove their case that they were victims of persecution and that they have a significant, legitimate fear of returning home, the consequences.
Right. So what's a reasonable period in your opinion?
I think probably, coming from as a non-lawyer, so I'm just shooting in the dark here, but my impression is about 4 months. You need time to get the documentation from back home. Yes, and you have to have access to attorneys. So I went up and visited 123 men in Sheridan Prison in Oregon last Saturday. They did not have access to attorneys. They did not know when they were ever going to get even a conversation about crossing the border or a date to go through the first stage of seeking asylum. They were in complete limbo, just almost a Kafka-esque situation in which some big government force had tossed them into prison when they thought they were arriving in America to be treated respectfully, and then had proceeded to give them no information about how to contact their children, how to get an attorney, or what was the next date on the agenda for them.
So if you can talk the Republicans into extending the period much longer than 14 days, my guess is if you put out 120, maybe the Republicans come back and you guys compromise at 60, say, a couple of months or something like that. If that's fixed, then you can sign on to this Cruz bill, or are there other issues you may have?
Well, no, absolutely not. This is a handcuffs for all bill. It goes hand in hand with what the president's laying out, which is lock people up. That is unnecessary. We've had good programs that the administration ended that were closely monitoring people, cost a lot less, and treated people with dignity. So his strategy of treating everyone as a criminal and then criminalizing the children as well is absolutely wrong.
So do you think you could have two systems? Would you propose two systems? So folks with children sort of are dealt with one way, folks that come over on their own as adults dealt with another way?
Actually, you don't need to have two systems. Case management worked for those with and without children.
So you're pretty confident. Why do you think this has been a difficult thing to sell to Republicans?
Well, the president wanted to turn immigration into a campaign issue for this fall. And so he decided after that Tuesday Trump that was all happy about doing a deal, and then he took heat for 2 days and decided to make MS-13 the symbol of those coming across our border. He decided to turn it into a campaign issue, exploit these children in order to drive this agenda. It is a racist, bigoted, cruel, inhumane, immoral, and doesn't fit into any religious tradition in the world.
Senator, final question, and maybe it's unanswerable, but I feel like each party, we get to this brink every election year, and the party in power, sort of fails to get there. In 2010, it was the Senate Democrats who wanted the issue. Supposedly the president at the time, Obama, wanted the compromise. The point is, are we ever going to get here, or is one party always going to see a political advantage to not cutting a deal?
In 2013, we put together a group of 8 senators, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans. They worked out security at the border, security for overstaying visas, using visas effectively for farming and for high tech. They worked out all of that. It had a supermajority support with D's and R's on board. It passed the Senate, would have easily passed the House, but the Speaker of the House refused to put it up for a vote. We got close, so that means we could get it done.
Senator Merkley, an eternal optimist there. I'm paid to be the cynic, right? Thanks for coming on, Democrat from Oregon.
Chuck.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.